I'm Amber, also known as Lone Star Keto Girl, and today we will be talking about the 3 most common questions I get as a carnivore coach. Number 1, how much should I eat? Well, that's a good question. First of all, let's talk about the fact that with carnivore, you don't really track macros. I'm not saying there's not a reason to do that at some point, but generally speaking, there's no need to work out this specific equation and get everything exactly perfect. The point is, you should eat enough at a meal that you can go about 6 hours without eating. You shouldn't need to snack. And if you do feel that need to snack, ask yourself, is it an emotional thing? Is it something I'm doing because I'm bored, I'm upset, I'm stressed? And if that's not the case and you really are hungry, eat a little bit more the next time for a meal. And you'll eventually figure it out. Generally speaking, females tend to eat about a pound to a pound and a half. Males tend to eat a pound and a half to 2 pounds, but that is just a very much of a generalization, and we all kind of have different needs. Me, for instance, I'm usually right about a pound to a pound and a fourth. And that kind of varies from day to day, depending on how hungry I am. Most of the time, I'm pretty satisfied with a pound of meat, but that's me. And I'm not just a real big person. So there is that. But always make sure you're eating enough. You should not be hungry. You should be able to go 6 hours without eating. Okay, so that's it. Number 2, how do I stop sugar cravings? This is a huge question and probably the most common one that I get. And here's the thing, sugar cravings are hard. We have eaten food for so long that has been designed to addict us. So of course we're going to struggle with sugar addiction, most of us anyway. I know I sure did. So when you're first starting, you're going to have to just buckle down and give it a couple of weeks, give it your all. It's going to suck. It's going to suck. I'm not going to lie to you, but just get through those couple of weeks. And then I promise it does get easier. And then once your hormones are more balanced and you get things under control, and especially when you're fat adapted, oh my goodness, your body starts working for you and it is so much easier. I can't even begin to tell you how much easier it gets. So just hang in there. That's the biggest thing. The other thing is, you're gonna really have to get rid of the sweet taste, okay? I know, yikes, yuck. But when you're first starting, like even with coffee, putting those sugar substitutes into your coffee or whatever can keep you craving those sweets. So at least for like the first 2 weeks, 30 days, even 60 days is what I would highly suggest. Try just going without all of that, and give your body that chance to adapt. And I promise it gets easier. And also, if you are eating dairy, you may consider not having that for at least the first month. Give your body that chance to really rid itself of the sugar addiction. Because even with dairy, because it does have natural sugars in it, right? It can really keep those cravings going. It can trigger cravings. And I know I've found that that's kind of true for me. I figured out that heavy cream is not really the best thing for me, because I start really wanting it. I start, having this like addiction happen all over again. So I have to be really careful with that. So really consider limiting the dairy or getting rid of it for at least for a while. You can always reintroduce it later and see what happens. Okay. And be sure you're eating enough. Just like I talked about in the first question, always be sure you're eating enough, because when you are hangry and you're, starving, it's hard to not look at everything on TV, the cereals and the Pop-Tarts and all that good stuff that you see on TV. You start really wanting that because you're hungry. Plus, you're still addicted to sugar. Another huge thing is getting enough quality sleep. I can't stress how important that is, because when you are not getting enough sleep, your cortisol tends to go a little bit crazy. Remember, that's that stress hormone. And it kind of just messes everything up, and it makes it very difficult to be able to resist sweets and etc. and cravings. So really focus on figuring out a way to get some better sleep. So very important. And along with that too is stress. Stress management is a big thing. And this is something that I'm having to work on too. Stress is really kicking my butt these days. And I know this. I had my cortisol tested and it was sky high. So I know this is something that I need to work on. And it doesn't matter how spot on your diet is, and mine is pretty spot on. If you're not getting quality sleep and your stress levels are high, even a good diet isn't going to save you. It's part of the puzzle, a very important part. So really focus on that, stress management and getting good quality sleep. That'll go a long way in helping with the sugar cravings, or any craving for that matter. Also, electrolytes. You always hear about electrolytes, good old electrolytes, but it is true. It is important to make sure that you're getting enough of those, whether it be from your foods or supplementation. Most of the time, or at least this is what I've found, and with my own experience, is if I'm eating a decent amount of good quality meat, I don't really struggle getting in my electrolytes. And matter of fact, I tested my levels on a few of my vitamins and et cetera and electrolytes, and everything was really good. And at that point, I wasn't supplementing. So I feel that if you're eating good quality food, for the most part, electrolytes should kind of come. And don't worry so much about the salt. Just salt to taste, and you're probably good there. There's a big controversy right now of eating too much salt, not eating enough salt, and I don't know what's going to happen with that. We may find that maybe we don't need as much salt as we've been told. We'll see. So the verdict is still out on that one. Magnesium supplementation is a pretty safe thing to do. Number one, it has 700 functions in the body. So and there's very, very rare instances of side effects. So it's a very safe supplement. I recommend magnesium glycinate. It's a good middle of the road one to start with. And as you go along, you may find that you need to add in some very specific magnesium types to go along with it, and that's perfectly fine. But magnesium is pretty safe. So you need that for so many things. It wouldn't hurt trying it just to kind of see. It also helps with sleep, by the way. So that's something to consider. Okay, I think I've hit everything there. Okay, so question number 3. Why can't I stick to a diet plan? Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one is when you start a diet and you think of it as a diet in the negative terminology of diet, and you're thinking of restriction, and you already have your mindset thinking that, oh, I can't have this, oh, I can't have that. Well, guess what? It's going to be miserable because you're focusing way too much on what you can't have. You have to reframe your thinking and look at foods as, ooh, do I really want that? Because is it going to help me move towards my goal? Is it going to help me be healthier? Is it going to help me live my life to the fullest? And if not, then, maybe you need to kind of reevaluate that and think about that a little bit, and just really work on the mind. That is so incredibly powerful, because now I can look at food and I'm like, you know what? I don't really want that. It's not worth it, because it's not helping me, move forward in my health journey. And it hurts me. Matter of fact, it actually hurts me. So I choose not to. It's not that I can't. I don't want to. Huge difference. You take your power back, and you don't feel like that pitiful person, oh, I can't have that. And that's what I've done every single time when I've been on diets. I focus on what I'm restricting. This is not restricting. Focus on what you can have. Beautiful meat, the most nutrient dense food that you can possibly have. Focus on that, and you can find something in the animal kingdom that you enjoy. You have to figure out what cuts of meat do you like, what types of meat do you like. You can add in chicken, fish, seafood. There's so many varieties. You don't have to have just hamburger meat or whatever. There is a huge variety if you just think about it that way and venture out and try different stuff. And eventually you won't really care. It becomes more about nourishing your body as opposed to relying on food to give you pleasure, comfort, whatever, entertainment. And that's a huge thing too, is you really have to change that relationship with food. It doesn't matter what diet you do. If you don't do that, it's not going to be sustainable. It's just not. So be really careful about how you frame things and what your focus is, and definitely change that relationship with food. Food is not entertainment. It is not meant to, or it shouldn't be about, pleasure as far as, emotional support and that kind of thing. It's not your best friend. It's not. Matter of fact, it's going to hurt you. It's going to end up being your enemy if you're not careful. So definitely reframe that. Okay. Also, another thing is, I think a lot of people focus way too much on weight loss and aesthetics. If you refocus that thinking to health, and I know it sounds so cheesy. I used to roll my eyes too when people would say, oh, it's about health. And I'd be like, whatever. I just want to fit in my size 0 jeans. Okay. I get that. But when you shift your thought process to focusing on your health, it makes it so much easier, because you're relieving that stress on you to be this perfect person, this model, this what's in magazines and on TV. You're giving yourself permission to focus on what's really important, your health. And it does relieve a lot of stress, because you're not so focused on the scale. You're not focused as much on the tape measure of, the outer side. That'll come. Just have patience. That's the other thing. Patience. You can't give up so soon. Let the process happen. It does. And when it does, I promise it's worth it. If I can't tell you enough, it is worth it. So just go ahead and struggle those first couple of weeks, and understand that is like itty bitty part of your life, to have the rest of your life be so much easier. So just let that work out. And the other thing you really need to do is remove the temptations out of the house. How can you expect to stick with a diet when you have ding dongs and ho-hos and whatever the heck else in the house staring you up in your face? It just like an alcoholic having, bottles of liquor up in the cabinet. It's not a good thing. It's hard enough as it is, but to sit there and wave something up in your face that you have a hard time resisting is not good. It needs to be removed. But here's the cool thing. A lot of times you can get to the point where it doesn't bother you anymore. You don't really care. So you might be able to allow it back in your house, but why? I wouldn't want anybody to have to eat that crap, So I try to keep it out of my house regardless of who's over or whatever. I just don't, whatever. That's me. Okay, so those are the 3 most common questions I get asked. I hope this has been helpful, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.